Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to FLIPP, which stands for Future Leaders in Public Policy, and our second webinar entitled What is it like working for a think tank? On behalf of FLIPP, we would like to thank each and every one of you for tuning in today, albeit virtually. We trust that you are staying safe and staying at home amidst this pandemic and difficult times. As the communications lead for FLIPP, I'd like to give a brief introduction to FLIPP. FLIPP is a think tank school. We are a school for the next generation of public policy leaders in Malaysia. We focus on youth aged between 15 and 30 years old. We will be organizing webinars, workshops, and one-day public policy hackathons in the near future. We are indeed honored and delighted to have an esteemed panel before us today. Mr. Voon, the Research Director from KSI Strategic Institute for Asia Pacific. Ms. Nelleita Omar, the Research Director for the Center. Ms. Ivy Kwek, Research Director for the Research for Social Advancement, REFSA. Mr. Zaim Mohzani, Co-Chair of the Future Leaders in Public Policy, FLIPP, who is our Chair. Ladies and gentlemen, what an amazing panel we have before us today. Now, the moment we have all been waiting for. Kindly bestow us the honor and lend us your ears for the next hour. Without further ado, let's start our session and let's flip out. I would now like to pass the floor to Mr. Zaim Mohzani, Co-Chair of FLIPP and our moderator for the day. Mr. Zaim, you have the floor. Take it away.
All right. Thank you so much, Roshan. Thanks, guys. Thanks, Roshan, for the introduction. I love it when Roshan does introduction because Roshan always dress smart and always gets the job done. Thanks, Roshan. Now, we're going to have an interesting webinar today. This is actually second edition, second series. We're going to talk about what is it like working for a think tank. And as Roshan mentioned, we have 3 research directors. Not one, guys. 3 research directors. There's a lot of research directors out there, and we got 3 of them. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to ask a series of questions, and then I'm going to select questions that were asked from the RSVP form, and then I'm going to go to the Facebook live questions. So it's sort of 3-part question, and don't worry, there will be no PowerPoint presentation, so they're going to keep it a bit chill. Now, the first question I'm going to ask is directed to Ivy, followed by Nell and Voon. The first question which I'm going to ask, the only question I'm going to ask all of you, which is a standard question, is tell us briefly about yourself and your organization.
Okay. Hi, Zain. Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for having me. This is a great initiative, and I'm really happy that there are so many people that are interested to join us today. So my name is Ivy. I'm the Research Director for REFSA, which stands for Research for Social Advancement. So we are a not-for-profit think tank that is trying to promote social advancement and progressive ideas. So yeah, that's me.
Nice, short and sweet. Thank you so much, Ivy. All right, Nell, floor is yours.
Gosh, that was super short, Ivy. Okay, thanks, Zaim. Thanks for inviting me onto this panel tonight. And yeah, I think this is a great initiative that you guys have started. So yes, my name is Nell. I'm the research director for the center. We're a small, relatively new think tank, started in 2019. And as the name might suggest, we see policy options and solutions through a centrist lens. Which in economic terms is quite similar to what it means in the US and Europe, which is to consider the balance between government versus private sector role in the provision of goods and services. In social or cultural terms, though, it's maybe a little bit different. We try to consider the most workable policy option given Malaysia's racial, religious, and historical context. Apart from our take on centrism, we also try to translate our policy work into formats that are more interesting to a mass audience. So particularly on social media, Instagram in particular. Thanks.
All right, thanks so much, Nell. I'm just looking at the numbers of people is climbing and climbing. All right, welcome guys, welcome and come and join us. All right, now we have third speaker, Voon. Take it away, Voon.
Thanks, Zaim. So my name is Voon. I'm the Research Director for KSI Strategic Institute for Asia Pacific. We are a relatively new think tank, having started in 1918. And what we do is a great mix of events, bringing people together. We see ourselves as a super connector, and that's our proposition in the think tank space. And my role in KSI is to coordinate our fledgling research program. So I think briefly that's what I want to share for now.
All right, thanks so much, Voon. Okay, I'm gonna go back to Ivy. Ivy, tell us, Ivy, what is a day in your life as a think tanker? People want to know. When I was looking at the RSVP form, there were like dozens of people that are asking us, like, what is it like to be a think tanker? What is it in a day of a think tanker? So Ivy, take it away.
Okay. So as a research director, I basically divide my role into two parts. So one is as a manager, then the other one, obviously, as a researcher myself as well, I also do research on particular topics that is my personal expertise. So typically in a day, I try to be more disciplined, especially now that we are all working from home. So I try to structure it in such a way where I would start my day off by checking news, and then while I sip on my coffee, and then I would also try to do some reading and check some of my mails, so that I am sort of more or less, mentally prepared for whatever that is coming my way when it is, around 8 or 9 o'clock, where all the requests will start coming in. So then I will try to schedule most of my meetings in the morning, even though that almost never really happened in such an ideal situation, but so I try to use the morning time to do things like having meetings that includes with the bosses or the management to do certain decisions on the strategic decisions for the organizations, and then also things like mentoring for the junior researchers, and also answering to requests. And then I'll try to leave my afternoon, sort of block it off, so that I can also do some writing myself and also reading. And that also includes sometimes tweeting. If there's something came out in the news that is sort of fall under the issues that we're interested in, then we would try to respond to it either on Twitter or via press statements and things like that. And then obviously also, keeping ourselves engaged with other contexts, and sometimes also trying to do things like grant applications and things like that. So that's kind of how I structure my day.
Thanks so much, Ivy. There was so much to unpack just now. There was work from home, there was managing the researchers, doing your own research, writing, tweeting. Oh my God, I thought think tankers only tweet all day, but I guess I was wrong. Now, I want to this question I want to ask Neil as well, right? So maybe tell us a day in your life as a think tanker. Maybe what are the sort of the differences from what you've heard from Ivy? Is there major differences, or the day is sort of similar to you?
Okay, there are a lot of similarities. I definitely spend most of my days, except maybe from Monday, because that is a day that we kick off the week with the team, and we'll have like a group meeting to check where everybody is, what's on everybody's work plate. But yeah, after meetings, scheduled meetings that are internal, then we'll each do our own respective jobs. And for me, that basically means responding to drafts, looking over for quality, looking over for coherence, and basically also guiding the researchers through some of the questions that they might have throughout the day. So because we're a very small team, we also, much like Ivy described, we also look at communications. So, but yeah, I'm slightly different from Ivy in that sense. So I will not personally tweet. So I would leave that to the researchers, who would have their take on the topical issues of the day, and respond accordingly if there is any relevance to the policy work, policy research work that they're doing.
Now you're very smart. You leave the tweeting to the junior guy, so you don't have to take the hit. You'll learn new things from Nell, guys. All right, let's go to Voon. Voon, what is a day in your life? A day in your life as a think tanker. Not a day in your life. There was a bit too personal, a day in your life as a think tanker, and maybe how does it differ from Nell and Ivy, if they differ at all?
Good thing you specified, otherwise I'll talk about Sunday. So no one day is the same. There will be certain days where it'll be a typical, what we call an office day, and then there'll be the event days. And the pace is extremely different. And of course, there's in between the preparation for the conference or the roundtables and the other preparatory works. So in a typical day, just like Nell and Ivy, we try to catch our breath when we sit down in the office. We try to catch up with whatever news that's taking place. We check our emails. And there's also two hats that we play, the managerial role as a director and the researcher. So I'll try to start the day by making sure, first and foremost, that our researchers have things to do. Otherwise, it will be time wasted. And just to make sure that I keep track on their progress, making sure that they have something to do as long as they are with us. And there'll be also a phase where we move on to planning on the conferences, which is what KSI is more popular with. And so that can come into issues like speech writing, or if the event is over, we look into analyzing the reports and getting the whole publications all done up, be it on a written report or whether it goes on social media or videos on YouTube. So we try to get the content from these events to flow to the right people that makes the decisions. So yeah, it depends on which day we're talking about, and it can be a slow day, it can be a really fast-paced day, and I think that's one of the exciting things that we experience working in a think tank like KSI. So yeah, thanks.
Nice, thanks so much, Voon. It's so interesting. I like the fact that you mentioned that there are fast days and slow days, and then a lot of people think that during this COVID-19 MCO period that days are usually slow, but not really, right? I mean, these are not really slow days, right? Sometimes they are a lot faster than we think. Yeah. Working from home sometimes can be chaotic, right? No, I wanna jump back to Ivy, and I think this is a question that is consistently asked in the RSVP form in terms of the questions. People ask, what exactly is your think tank's research process? How do you make policy relevant research? I think what I'm trying to ask is, how do you actually have impact? So knowing that process, and how do you actually have impact? You don't have to answer in terms of how you measure impact on it, but maybe like how do you define success for you guys in the context of your research process?
So I didn't manage to share much just now about our research agenda. So actually, REFSA, we focus on the social economic issues and also security and institutional reform. So in terms of our research process, I think it is a bit of a mix. There are certain things that as an organization we are interested in because these are the agenda that is driving us forward. So then a lot of this agenda perhaps discuss among the management first to say that these are some of the goals that we want to achieve in a certain time frame. And then obviously we'll have a brainstorming sessions with our researchers, and as much as possible, I will try to encourage and support the more junior staff to also give ideas. And as long as their research interests are not totally the opposite of what we are trying to do as an organization, I will try to support them to also have their own research agenda. So it is sort of like balancing between the research agenda of the organization as a whole, but also sort of a more personal research interest of our researchers, and also the kind of expertise that we have among our researchers. So yeah, it's kind of both top down and also sort of bottoms up as well.
Nice, thank you so much, Ivy. It reminds us of a Rojak process, right? No such thing as a linear process where you come from idea all the way to impact, right? I like to think that in the world of a think tank, in the ideal world of a think tank space is you go from idea to impact, but it doesn't actually work like that. You need to rely on your directors, your advisors, and also on your expertise of your researchers. Something that I think all of us here can relate, except for me because I'm not a researcher. Now I want to go to Nell. Now, Nell, I don't want to ask the same question, but I want to ask you a lot more on how do you communicate your research to the stakeholders and all the public. Because if you guys go to the center's website, center.my, the comms is amazing. The graphics, the design, everything is amazing. Like how does this? If you look at the context of the website and how you frame this, right? How do you work with your researchers to communicate this research to the stakeholders or the public?
That's a great question. Thanks, Zaim. Okay, so when I'll take it maybe like from the point where Ivy left off, right? So once we have figured out the research question and we've undertaken the research process, come up with the report, right? Actually, like that is part two also for us in terms of finishing off that entire process. We have to figure out what are some of the right formats to put this in. So of course, we start out with always like the long form report, right, or the long form article. But that as a piece of cornerstone content, we figure out, okay, what is the metaphorical or high level idea here, right? How can we communicate that maybe in an illustration, in a flip book that will lend well to becoming an Insta story, for instance, or are there any other types of formats that we can translate this piece of work into? So it's still evolving. We started out with basically just illustrations in the beginning, right? How do we turn this particular idea into a cartoon, into a one-frame cartoon? And from there, it's just sort of it grown and developed, and we're not done yet. We'll probably come up with like different ways of doing it because, well, one, it's fun, and two, it actually pushes your understanding of your own research, right? It makes you really understand, okay, this is what it means when it's simplified, right? When it's communicated at a lay or a mass level. And that really actually helps in strengthening the work.
Thanks so much, Nell. It's important to keep your research relatable and riot friendly because this stuff is not only to be consumed by people, the other think tankers and also Twitter Jaya, right? This has to be consumed by everybody else. Voon, I want to go to you. Now, this is sort of a tough question, but and you don't have to answer this in the context of KSI. Maybe your own observation, because you have worked in a think tank before this as well. How do you sort of monitor, evaluate, and measure impact of research, if at all? Because this we discussed this in the last webinar about the impact of research, and most of the people there say, look, it's not straightforward, it's not easy. But I want to get your take on this.
Ideally, an answer people be hoping for is, this policy brief that we published, it changed lives. We managed to have like so and so numbers of people move from middle income to high income. But unfortunately, there isn't such a evaluation measure. In fact, I don't think the top think tanks of the world are capable of doing that. But I think in the limited capacity that all think tanks have, we measure our success by seeing how much our work has influenced the decision-making process. So because a lot of the things that we try to do is basically to push political will by writing about it, getting it out there, trying to influence people to think and believe in a certain way, and that is to allow the politicians, the decision makers, to give them an easier time to bring it to Parliament to get it passed or get it rejected either way. So the only way we can, depending on our agenda and the agenda of our backers, the way we measure our success is how much of it happens in Parliament or how much it affects society. So let's say if the policy that we've written has contributed to a certain law change and that contributes to a certain social development, I would say that's how we measure success. But if we can put a value to it, I suppose theoretically, if you've got big data, you can, but we don't really have a unit of measurement at this time, unless the center or REFSA has a kit for me that I'm not aware of.
No.
Thanks, Voon. It's so interesting, right? Because not easy to unpack this question because of if you guys watched the previous webinar, which you guys should, we actually talked about this impact question at length, and even there was a very Ganas question by someone that mentioned about think tanks have no impact, and obviously that's not always the case, but there were very interesting inputs on the previous panel webinar, so you guys check that out if you guys want to. I want to jump straight to the audience questions because even look at the time, it's 8:50, 20 minutes, we jump in, right? This is the power of not having PowerPoint presentation, just get straight to the questions. I want to jump to some of these fan questions that we've had, and I think shout out to the guys that are asking this question. These are actually, many of them are from the FLIPP community. When we say community is a WhatsApp group, thanks so much, you guys are very active. This is the FLIPP army, so shout out to you guys, very, very, very strong army. I want to go with the first question. I want to ask Ivy this question. Because Ivy macam pandai gila lah kan. So this question is relevant for Ivy. How smart were you so this question is asked by Nabila. How smart were you in class back in your university or college days? It seemed like all think tankers are top-notch students, which discourages an average student like me. Ivy.
Okay, thank you for overestimating my intelligence. No, I don't really consider myself very smart. I mean, it also depends on. I guess I will answer it in two parts. One is just to share my personal experience. In fact, I am not only I don't think that I am super smart in terms of like academically. I'm actually not even. I didn't even do like any degree that is related to policy studies. My basic degree was actually biology, and actually I have an interesting story of how I ended up in the policy world, but maybe I'll save it for later if you have time. So as a science student entering into a policy world, obviously it is a little bit of a steep learning curve for me. And then to make things worse, I realized that a lot of the interns that I was with at the time, they were all like from Ivy League universities, and they were like econ students, Oxford, PPE, and that kind of credentials. Whereas I am a science student, and I'm actually from a local university, so I have like this really, really bad inferior complex when I first started up. But I think that I think the research is actually not really like rocket science, because if you join a think tank, as the name suggests, you're supposed to think, right? I mean, obviously, all of us can think. Obviously, we need to learn how to think better, but it is something that we can all learn as long as you put your heart into it. So that's the first part of my response to your question. Then the second part is, what is your definition of smart? So I think that, we all know that smart doesn't mean that you are, doing very well in terms of your studies academically, but there's also different kind of smart. You need to have emotional intelligence, and then you need to have a bit of street smart. And also I think increasingly, I feel that we need researchers that also have a lot of empathy. And sometimes if you come from a different socioeconomic background, it can help it can actually inform your views when it comes to your policy research. So yeah, I would say don't worry so much about that. You're definitely smarter than you think you are.
So true, Ivy. I mean, I think you can all relate to this, right? I think whenever people ask people at Nabila, like, hey, what do you do in your exam? Then I'll be like, I tak tahu lah. I got 17 A's. What? People usually underestimate how smart they are, right? So I think you're absolutely right. And I think sometimes it's not about IQ as well, right? EQ plays a lot of this when you work at a think tank, right? Not so much IQ, stuff you can learn. Some people even learn that history from YouTube. Don't do that. But this you can pick up a lot of skills. I wanna ask another question, and I know we didn't prepare for any of this question. No part of questions here. I wanna ask Nell, my next victim. The question is by Aminuddin, and I love this so much. Do think tankers have a future, and do think tankers have a work-life balance? What the question?
They're two completely different, separate questions, right? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay,
So, are you alive now, and will you be alive in the future?
Okay. Can I take the work-life balance first before answering the future one? Okay. The work-life balance thing. It depends on. I think it depends on the person really. especially now when everybody is working from home, I did have like a slight worry about one of my researchers, because I thought that maybe he was just working all the time. But yeah, I think like he's taking a bit more of a, you know, personal break times nowadays, here and there. But yeah, I think think tankers do have a work-life balance, but you do need to impose, like what Ivy said earlier, you do need to impose discipline in your day. So there's gonna be times where you just really have to block off to, one, eat and not like eat in front of a computer screen, reading things, right? And two, you have to have time to work out, because sometimes when you're in your head for too long, you tend to spin your wheels and you don't get anywhere. So yeah, you can have a work-life balance. The think tankers have a future. I guess I wish the questioner was in front of me. What do you mean? Have a future in what sense?
Like a career future, you know what I mean?
Well, if you want to be a surgeon, I don't know. But if you want to be, let's say, a policy advisor in a company, or potentially even the government, or something along those lines, yes. I think maybe the fairest answer to this question is that you can parlay your think tank experience to different careers in different scenarios. What is important, though, is that your time as a think tanker, you have pieces of work that you can use as a demonstration of your ability to think, your ability to write and write well, and participation in panels and webinars, so that people can see what you're like as a person.
Thanks, Nell. I was afraid just now when you said the particular stuff that was having personal breaks here and there. I was like, who is this guy? Do not go to the website and Google this person, guys. No, but you're right. I think you have to, it's self-care, right? I think when you, the work-life balance, think tankers, and also, people not in think tanks, the self-care during, especially if you work from home, you need to sort of distinguish between your work time and also your time for you to do other things, right? So you can't just work all the time, So Nell has a good point: eat and time to work out. So she didn't say time to tweet, so be careful, guys. All right, I wanna jump. So many good questions. I wanna ask Voon this question. Right? So this is by Joe. Love his name, Joe. Right? Super cool name, Joe. Joe says, "What is the mentality of a person that?" So the question which is asked, what mentality type of a person is a requirement to join a think tank? So what do you think think tankers need to have, the mindset they need to have before they join a think tank?
I would say think tanker, the analyst researcher for think tanker, needs to have a mix of being an idealist and a pragmatist. So because you need to have a vision of what you want before you can actually make good suggestions. But it cannot be just stuff that you smoke out and dream in the clouds. It needs to be practical solutions as well. I also say that think tankers, based on the colleagues that I have, they're usually quite pessimistic, but that's a good thing to me, because they criticize everything. They go there, hey, they could have done this thing better, why would you do it like that? And if it's something good that they complain about, they write about it and they publish it in opinion pieces, and somehow it turns into policy. So yeah, I think if you are a person who has a vision, a dreamer, an idealist, but you can marry that trait with being a pragmatist, putting it into finding real solutions to your ideas, then I would say it's a good combination to have. Bear in mind, and this is a small warning, that sometimes good ideas can have bad consequences. So you need to have the EQ to see, like, is my policy, which I think is good, going to do more harm in the end? So they need to see a few steps ahead to make that kind of prediction, best guess at least. So yeah, I think that's pretty much the personality that I would like. Maybe I'll just expand a little bit more to the personality level again. There's a mix of the loner kind of researcher because we're all timid and very introverted, right? And there's also the type that's very outspoken. And you need to be, because the reason why we can give good proposals and suggestions is because we're very well exposed and connected to people. So it requires you to go and make friends with everybody from all walks of life, all political parties if possible, even business community, academia. You need to have that exposure before, and you need to learn up to, so you need to be willing to learn, right? To be able to come up with good ideas. So that's the best fit I can probably say lah.
Zaim, can I add also to that?
Sure. Go ahead.
That's good. I think to add on to Voon's excellent list, I would add also the person should be intellectually curious. And I don't mean smart necessarily in the way that Nabila asked the question about being, school smart, right? I think, it's just being able to be interested and wonder why things are the way they are, right? And wonder, okay, how does this thing actually work? Because that drives a lot of the research and pushing for the research itself to be better. It also allows you to have conversations with your research manager or your research director about the work without getting too personally affected by it, because they are going to have criticism, right? But so long as it pushes the work to be better and you can participate in that kind of discussion because you are intellectually curious about the work itself.
Thanks so much, Anel. Ivy, do you want to add anything to this? I think this is a very interesting question.
No, I think that Voon and Nell really cover it very well.
See, Ivy had demonstrated the third trait, which is being humble. Sometimes, knowing when to speak and not to speak. I want to just quickly recap.
Actually, since you mentioned humility, I can add that I also think that researcher needs to be humble and confident at the same time. Yeah. So humble in the sense that you know that you don't know everything, and you actually really actually have an open heart to learn, and actually put in the effort to make sure that the research that you do of good quality, and to make sure that it's actually evidence-based. But you also need to be confident because I realize that a lot of time, perhaps a lot of researchers are more type A personality, so they tend to feel like they are not good enough, or they have to be better, that kind of thing. So I really would encourage any young researcher out there to be confident, to speak your mind. If you have an idea, run it with people. Just give your opinions. It's usually better than you think.
I love that you mentioned about the type A and having some imposter syndrome, right? Not feeling good enough. Nabila, don't worry, Nabila. It's gonna be okay. It's gonna be okay. This session is so personal. Like we're naming names and just getting talk to them in heart to heart. I'm gonna quickly recap the 3 points, right? Pragmatist and idealist, what Voon mentioned. Nell mentioned being intellectually curious, and Ivy says humble and confident. And I think the point on being humble and confident, not knowing it and saying that you don't know, actually is perfectly okay. There was this actually, I followed this YouTube channel of some doctor who does reviews of jokes, and apparently in the medical field, a doctor that says he or she doesn't know actually is a sign of leadership, because you can't know everything, right? It's impossible for you to know everything, every issue, every actor, every challenge, So even the think tankers, right? It is impossible for all think tankers to know everything out there, right? So this is actually a very, very good point. If the think tanker seems like he or she knows everything, probably googling when you're talking to them during mama. Yeah. So be careful of those guys. All right, cool. Let's. There is another interesting question. I want to ask Ivy this question. This is by Nur Fatin. Nur Fatin asks, after so many years of working in a think tank, how do you manage originality and fresh ideas? Very interesting question.
Is it for me?
Yes, I agree. Unfortunately.
I think that so I guess sometimes talking to people help, having a support group, have someone to be a sounding board to you, so that you know that you're not living in your own bubble and you're not just talking about things that make sense to only yourself. So that definitely helped. Talking to more people from all walks of life, as Voon mentioned, it really can extend your horizon. So going back to the point about being intellectually curious and having humility is to know that you need to constantly be searching for more different possible answers. So I think that's that. Obviously, keeping up with some of the current affairs is also very important. I think so that you know how to have more fresh ideas because things have obviously changed over the years.
Thanks so much, Ivy. There is a popular scholar by the name of Adam Grant, and he wrote a book about originals. I think there is such an interesting book if you guys read it. That sometimes no such thing as original, and usually things are built up from fundamental concepts. It's very difficult to become a Plato, Socrates, or Aristotle now, right? Because those are philosopher kings that come up with all these fundamental concepts. But what we can do is to build on those particular concepts. And I just want to quickly also add that if you guys watch TED Talk, right? You guys may watch TED Talks. There is a book by one of the current curator. He wrote a book about how to give a TED Talk. And he mentioned that if you guys want to pitch an idea to a stakeholder or a member of the public, always explain that idea from a viewpoint of an understandable concept. That means a concept that people already understand, and then build on that. So you don't want to pitch an idea out of randomly, in a vacuum, like So you want to just say like, okay, if you explain to someone, pick a concept that people are familiar with, and then you build on that concept. So that's easier for them to understand where you're coming from. So this is actually a pro tip for you guys, only for you guys that are watching in, right? Okay, I want to ask another question. So many good questions. This is a good question. So this is for Nell Carwin. Ask, is it rewarding to be a think tanker in terms of salary? Such a loaded question.
Is it rewarding in terms of salary? Yeah, okay. Compared to the time that you put into the work, the kind of job autonomy that you have, and the freedom basically to pursue your research question, right? If you are research minded, or if you like working with researchers, then yeah, I think given all those factors, it is rewarding. But if it's just money, objectively speaking, then I mean, if you're comparing to bankers or maybe even investment bankers, that's going to be a bit tough. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, if you compare with investment bankers, we all lose, right? I mean, nobody can compete with sort of these 12 months bonuses, right? I mean, but you're actually right. I think I want to let Voon jump into this conversation. Voon, is it rewarding to be a think tanker financially?
Wow, tough spot, Zaim, since we all work in the same company. I think overall, I would say it is. I do enjoy the work when it matters. In terms of remuneration, just like what Nell said, if it's relative, right? If you compare yourself to, I mean, Nell used the example of investment banker, but I don't know what is the stress level or the amount of work. I mean, if they're working until 3 a.m. in the morning, then like I would say, losers, you just want money in the end, so far. So no offense to friends that are doing investment banking, yeah. But but in terms of remuneration, can you get? And I want to marry that with the question that was asked earlier. As a career, would there be a long-term future in a think tank? I would say that there's definitely a progression scale depending on how successful the think tank is in terms of getting in your grants and your endowments. But yeah, whether rewarding, yes, because the experience is what matters, right? It's and we don't just do the research just like it's like some people might think like it's like a perpetuity of doing assignments forever. How is that a fun reward? It isn't. I mean, I mean, we look at it the way that it sounds like hell, but no, the research work is rewarding because of number one. I think researchers are vain in a small sense where we like to see our work getting mentioned out there. We get a sense of reward from the acknowledgement. But also, if there is some positive social impact on the ground, I think we are more proud of that fact in the end of the day. So that is the most rewarding one. And in terms of salary, it's not going to be like a 6-figure salary, not 1.5 at the moment. Okay. But
no, kidding. Go ahead.
That's going to have a word with me next week in the office. The sense of reward is definitely there at the end of the day. I don't feel that much of a financial strain. I get by all right. I got decent savings, and I do think it's rewarding. So it's definitely a career path that people should consider.
Yeah.
Can I chime in as well? It's an interesting question. I think that if you do decide to join the think tank world, you should actually see it as a public service. Because if your primary motivation is money, then I think your skill would be better remunerated elsewhere. And with the kind of skill that you have, if you can join a think tank world, the research skill, you can definitely join a lot of different sectors as well. It's transferable skills. So the money is definitely better outside. I think the salary here is okay. I did take a small pay cut when I joined. I think the money is okay, but definitely if you are talking about earning big bucks, this is not the place for you. But think of it as a public service because your work matters. It has a great impact on the society and the country. So yeah.
Thanks so much. I feel so much better about my job now. Oh, I feel good. I feel good. Nation building is part of the process. Thanks so much, guys. Such good inputs. There is a very interesting question by Emil. Emil is actually a friend of mine, a student, and he asked, do you, it can be any of the think tanks here, offer structured internship programs that can be converted into a permanent position once the program ends? This actually is a very popular sentiment, not even in the Q&A, the RGP. A lot of people have been asking these questions on and off. What do you guys, I mean, I don't want to pick on any of you guys, but what do you guys, basically is asking, do think tanks offer employment post-internship? Is that a thing? Should people expect that, or at least ask, or do you think maybe not a thing in the think tank world?
It differs, I think, from think tank to think tank. Some outfits do have a structured internship program. For us at the center, not yet. But yeah, I hope that we will be able to offer one in the future.
Nice. All of you do. So good.
Same for REFSA as well. We don't really have a structured internship program, but we do take interns. So if you're interested, do send us your CV. And there were interns that actually stayed on to be permanent staff before. But it's on the case
nice.
Like you.
Ivy the punching, guys. Okay, apply. Go to the website. Voon.
I'll add in as well. We cannot assume that think tanks have an unlimited budget, so we need to look at it from that lens. There is a finite budget, first of all. So, and it also depends on whether the intern is good, first and foremost. So, if the intern is good, there is potential in developing the intern's research ideas, because KSI, we do allow our interns our youth leads to pursue their own interests. So if there's a potential there and we see that this person can do work, of course, if there's an opportunity, we'll grab and we want to turn that person to a full-time position. And that hasn't happened in KSI just yet, budget constraints. When I was in my previous organization, another think tank, we did. In fact, it happened quite often that interns will become research executives. So it is possible. It is possible, depending on which organization you choose and how good you are.
Thanks, Voon, Ivy, and Nell. Good inputs. I think the consensus is it depends, right? It depends. I mean, it's the same thing. Any other industries, you go for internship, you cannot expect employment at the end. Usually it depends, and I think it's a lot more difficult now with the COVID-19 situation. A lot of companies are cutting expenses and managing their cash flow. So I think we just need to, you guys need to just band back. I know it's tough for a lot of our Gen Z friends out there. I think it's a tough time, but hang in there. I think things will get better if you guys are interested in this space. I've got a very well. This is a very interesting question, I think, by Yi Kian. What kind of extracurricular activities would equip someone interested in working in a think tank? What kind of extracurricular activities should the person be doing if the person wants to work in a think tank? So assuming this person is in college or university, let you guys just think about this for about 2-3 seconds. But I think Ivy looks ready to sort of jump on this question. Ivy, why don't you take a step at this?
There's many, I think. Well, I think that usually I like someone that show a lot of initiatives. So if the person has sort of some project that is related to maybe advocacy, I think that is a very strong plus point for the research organizations. And then obviously if you have extra skills, like if you know how to do design, or if you know how to do video productions, because these days there is no very clear compartmentalization between like what does the researcher do, and then what's like the communication staff do. Sometimes, especially in a smaller think tank, you just have to do a bit of everything. So so having that skill is also would be a plus. And then obviously, if you have coding skills, data analytics, I think that is also very sought after.
Yeah.
Nice. It looks like a long laundry list of things that you should have. But I think you're absolutely right. Things have changed. During my time, it was not. I mean, coding and graphic designing was not really a thing. But now I think with a lot of social media, a lot of people using social media, a lot of things are usually publishing a lot of their content on social media now, right? If you look at Instagram, sort of the infographic, the 5, 6, 7 posts in a single post is becoming a thing now. And I think if you're young, you probably need to have some level of exposure before you jump into think tank, because you might be asked to do that work, right? Who wants to take a step at this? Nell or Voon? Floor is yours.
Yeah, gosh, I mean, it's been such a long time since I've been in uni, right? So, but
well,
yeah,
I thought it's only been 10 years. Nell, no, you look a bit young for your age.
You're lovely. But I'm thinking, the activity, the activity should, one, tell your potential employer or the recruiter, or, the person running the internship that you are an interesting person with a lot of reading interests. That is for me a nice extracurricular thing for me to look at. Like, what are the things that you go out of your way and like read or learn more about in your spare time, right? Without having it to be a school assignment or a job assignment. So because that tells me that, okay, you can work on your own. And if I give you something, you can be like pretty self-sufficient and just kind of see, feel your way through it and then come back with something, right? Even if that something doesn't make a lot of sense at first. So yeah, so that tells me initiative. The other extracurricular activity actually that is good is yes, advocacy. I mean, I like that, but also something that shows me that you can string a thought or a story together, right? Because a lot of research work is actually figuring out how one bit connects to the next, to the next, to the next, right? Then yeah, that's how you make sense of the piece of work. That's how you also communicate it to a larger audience. So something that can show me how you think, that's usually a piece of writing. That's which some people do as an extracurricular if they work for the editorial board or something like that. It can be a photo journal. It can be many things, like even a video that you do, because you're particularly interested in that, in a weird topic, So yeah.
Nice. Thanks, Nell. Very, very interesting inputs. I'll quickly add a point, but I want to let Voon go first, and then we wrap up this question. Voon?
Yeah, sure. I think this question is alluding to getting tips from us, like what kind of skill sets do you need to build? Which kind of societies do I need to go to? Should I join like the United Nations Association overseas when I'm in uni? Or join like those typical associations like ISAC or ICMS and AMEU, whatever. Yes, of course, those things will help. But I like to, and of course, joining internship programs would also help. But I like to use a point that a dear colleague of mine, ex-colleague of mine said. He was actually very perplexed with the idea of why do you want to bog yourself down with all these programs? You should be living your life. You should be traveling the world and see how things are, which I thought was a very interesting perspective, because if you want to give good solutions and policies to people, you need to see how things are in the world first. You need to see how other countries are running their programs, their government. You need to be exposed to other things. You cannot be just confined to your own space. So to that, I would say, well, if you want to go for these programs, yes, but do not compromise the need for you to explore, to expand your mind, because that will be equally as important in the future. So if you are, as the Malay proverb goes, katak di bawah tempurung, you won't be able to offer much to the table because you're simply not exposed. So yeah, I think exposure is a good thing. To me, well, I don't think the crowd here is in secondary school, but if you are, or in that age group, just join anything. Just, around, okay? The ones that will really have a problem to me are like, last time in school, actually, I didn't join anything. It's like, susah lah. University, did you join anything? University? No, I just studied. And it's like, So, you went to Australia, UK. Do you travel around? No, I just studied in university. Oh gosh, dude, that's a problem to me. So, students who are still there at university, go and travel, go and expose yourselves. That's more important. Don't just study only. If you are going overseas just to study, you can just do it here for like 1/3 or 1/4 the price. Same thing. Okay, so that would be chip in now.
But Voon, don't you think that it's interesting to see what people enroll themselves in, right? What they volunteer for. So, for instance, the exposure point that you made is really an excellent one. But if you enroll yourself in something that allows you to speak to actual people, right? I mean, that's definitely brownie points, right? In my book, anybody's book, right? Yeah. If you were survey enumerator, I mean, that is great. Then you know how to talk to people. Yeah, how to run questionnaires even. It's great.
Also, I think whatever that can show us that you really care a lot about the particular cause that we are doing. I think that's also very important.
Excellent points, guys. Thanks for that. I don't think I have to recap. I think there was excellent points. I like the last part about Voon saying you got to explore the world. Not just get stuck, not just be stuck in your campus. I think Voon is a bit difficult with the COVID-19, so I think we might have to figure out the different context for this. Now, I think we are 7 minutes to the clock. I want to ask you guys for some reflections in terms of maybe some advice, some insights, maybe more advice and insights for our fellow aspiring think tankers out there. If you can offer them advice, what would you, maybe if you like one or maybe maximum of 3 pieces of advice you would give them before we end the session? What would be that 3 pieces of maximum 3? So it can be 1, 2, or 3, up to you. What do you think our aspiring think tankers should take note of before they venture into this world of Z think tanks? I would like to go in reverse order to give Ivy a break. I know Ivy has sort of been bearing the brunt for all of my attacks today. So, Voon, I know you're still thinking, but Voon, maybe you can kick off this thought for us. What
do they need to prepare when they come into the think space? Is it
up to you? Advice for aspiring think tanks. Yeah, I mean, what should they know? What do you think they should know before they join?
Well, for me, come with an open mind, come with a mission to want to change the world. Very idealist point of view, which some people criticize, but I think it is good to come in hopeful. Don't worry, you will become jaded and you become realistic after a few years. But that's fine. That's the process, right? But yeah, just come in, since if you're just starting out, it's good to come in hopeful. And yeah, I love that. I love to see that coming in from new interns and people that just start off. Like, yeah, it gives me that encouragement also. So I used to be like that. Then it rubs off on me. And that, yeah, I also want to be like that one more time. That kind of thing. So yeah, that's me.
Thanks. And Nell?
Oh my gosh. No, I'm just still reacting to that. It's just great. Okay, my piece of advice to anyone interested in joining a think tank. There are nowadays, I think as we have kind of made somewhat clear in our responses, right? There are different parts of a think tank. There's the researcher. Some think tanks have their own communications team. Some think tanks even have their own like fundraising team, which is amazing. I love that. Yeah, but yeah. So you don't have to be a researcher necessarily, right? You could be interested to be in a think tank, to be in a world of like ideas and research, but you may not necessarily want to be a researcher, right? You could try it out. And find that maybe it's not suited for you, but there are other parts of the think tank that maybe you're much better suited for. And yeah, so explore those, right? Because you have your interests, you have your strengths, right? Use that. Don't try to fit a certain mold because because you did really well in school and you think that okay, I need to live out my destiny as a researcher. I mean, no, that's not necessarily the case, and everybody's journey is going to be different. Use your strengths, right? And it will lead you to greater and greater things.
Nice. Ivy, last word from you.
I guess my first advice would be that maybe I should start by saying that we really encourage everybody to join a think tank because we don't have enough think tank in Malaysia, and we need all the talents that we have to actually make the think tank scene more vibrant. So my first advice would be, if you do want to join a think tank, treat it as a public service. What I mentioned earlier. You are here because not just to get a salary, a paycheck, but you are here because you actually care about something, and you know that your research, you can actually help to inform policy, and you can actually make a change. So that is the mindset that you need if you do decide to join. The second advice I can give is perhaps before you join a think tank, try to find out what kind of think tank suits you, because there's actually many types of think tanks nowadays. There are some think tanks that are a bit more traditional. They do more research pieces. They are not so media savvy, but they serve a role. And then there are some that are, more sort of emerging think tanks, smaller in scale, but very sort of, I guess, not a bit more innovative, or I guess you're using different methods to communicate the research. So find out what kind of think tank suits you. Find out what does the think tank stands for. Obviously, that has to be something you believe in. Try to find out also who are their funders, because that obviously has also a great impact on the kind of direction that the think tank is going. And find out whether this is a think tank that will actually help you to advance your career, whether they are the kind of a supportive think tank that can give you the opportunity to learn what you want to learn, and actually give you the opportunity as a more junior staff to put your name out there, to be able to publish, or be able to join different things that can help you to advance your career in the future. So yeah, that's my second advice. The third advice, I guess, would be that because we are here, because we want to make a difference, sometimes I think that think tankers tend to burn out quite quickly as well. So back to what Nell said about taking good care of our work-life balance and our mental health. So yeah, I think that is something that we need to bear in mind as well. we want to do good, but we also need to take good care of ourselves. So yeah.
Such great advice. Thanks so much, guys. So such an interesting session. I can't believe we've asked so many questions and we've spent 1 hour doing this. So interesting. There's so many inputs. I don't want to summarize all of these points, but it's so great. I think the question was to ask sort of 3 things, right? And I think sort of 3 things that I heard when I was the age of the people that are watching this. Early 20s. One of my mentors said that this is a very, very controversial quote. The first mentor told me when I asked him for advice before joining public service. I was in government for a long time, and so public service, as how Ivy said. He told me that if you're not a socialist before you turn 30, you have no heart. And if you're not a capitalist after you turn 40, you have no brain. That was the first one. That was the first mentor. The second mentor told me this: before you turn 30, you want to save the world. After you turn 30, you just want to save yourself. So these 2 advice was very, very bad. They're poor advice because this was telling you that you should give up before you even try. And sort of the third thing that I've learned myself after, this is a quote I stumbled upon by the founder of Scouts, is that try to leave this world a better place than when you found it. And when your turn comes to die, you can die happy, feeling at any rate you have not wasted your time, but have done your very best. And that's worth it, because the world of think tank is tough, and the impact doesn't come this month, this year. It can come in the next 5 to 10 years, but it is worth it, because as Ivy said, the work that we do actually matters. So if you guys are interested, go and do this work. Now that we are probably 1 minute exceed of time. Thank you so much, guys. Thank you for the panel. Thank you, Voon. Thank you, Nell and Ivy. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
If you guys want to watch on playback, for those of you that registered, you get this video tomorrow. I'm going to pass the floor back to our dashing MC, Roshan. Floor is yours, Roshan.
Thank you to our panelists and our moderator, Mr. Zaim. Let's give them a round of applause, please, for our panelist and our moderator. One more round of applause, ladies and gentlemen, to yourself as well for being so engaging and asking constructive questions during a webinar. We have indeed learned a lot regarding what is it actually like working for a think tank, again, from industry experts hailing from various think tanks in Malaysia. We are so excited with the amazing response and turnout today. We hope that you have learned a lot from this very inspiring and fulfilling session. Stay tuned to our FLIPP Instagram and Facebook pages for updates regarding FLIPP. Please feel free to post or tag us on our FLIPP Facebook or Instagram page as well, and we will be sure to mention or highlight your post. On behalf of the team at FLIPP, we would like to thank each and every one of you for tuning in to our second webinar. Please join our WhatsApp groups for immediate updates. All the information can be found on our Linktree at Linktree FLIPP Malaysia. Goodbye for now. Catch you future leaders very soon. Let's do our part together in fighting the pandemic. Take care and stay safe. Kita jaga kita.